Hey guys, it's Adelaide. I just wanted to show you guys what I'm going to be making for dinner tonight. It's super fast, super simple, and pretty healthy for the most part. All you're really going to need is broccoli, asparagus, pesto. I got these edamame noodles from Aldi. They probably have them at Walmart or Schnucks or anywhere else. You don't have to get these if you want to. But these are really high in protein and they're a great plant source, so I highly recommend trying them, and they're actually really delicious. So rice noodles, these are my favorite. I try not to make them all the time since there's not like any nutritional benefits for you, but they're also not really bad for you. There's just kind of nothing in them, kind of like celery. So they're delicious. I have some leftover spinach, and I have another bag just in case I need more, because I love spinach. It's easy just to throw in anything because it's super good for you. We don't really cook with a whole lot of salt, so we pretty much use these liquid aminos if we want to have that flavor. So I just add a little bit of this. You don't need much, but it's completely up to you. But I don't use salt, I use this instead. And then I'm just gonna throw in a little bit of pepper, and then garlic powder and cayenne pepper. Since everyone has been getting sick and I don't want to get sick, I'm trying to combat that. So what we're doing is adding anything that we know has like antiviral and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking a little bit of the heat will kind of help kick anything that's going to be coming on. So next step is I'm just going to show you guys what I'm going to be doing to prepare. So the next step to this recipe is just to make sure that you get some water boiling. And then we're going to add in both of our noodles. I'm going to start with the edamame because they take a little bit longer to cook. They're pretty coarse. But once those get cooking, then I'm going to add in the rice noodles, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. I just added in the rice noodles, the edamame ones. It took like a minute, 2 minutes, less than that. They cook really fast. So I'm just trying to get these under the water because as soon as these heat up, they are pretty much done. I don't want them to get overdone. I did want to point out again that I don't have any salt in this, and I also don't put oil when I cook noodles in here. I try to stay away from oils and salt as much as possible. We don't need as much as we consume, and it's already in everything, so I try to avoid it. But yeah, once these get done, I'll show you what those look like. Okay, these are the noodles done, and because I'm secretly an old soul, I put them in one of my Pyrex dishes because they are amazing for everything. As you can see, these noodles have a hard time consistently being mixed. They like to separate themselves, which is fine, doesn't bother me. But if it bothers you guys, then maybe you just want to stick with one kind or the other. But just a heads up there. Now I'm just going to try and mix in the pesto. Now I only got one. If you guys really like this flavor, then I highly recommend getting 2 jars of this. But this should be enough since there is a lot of olive oil in here. We don't want to go overboard, but it is delicious. This is the pesto all the way mixed into all the noodles. You can almost not even tell which ones are the edamame and which ones are the rice noodles. Oh my gosh, the smell of basil is incredible. I love pesto. It smells so good, and I hope you guys are gonna love it as much as I do. On to the next step of cutting up all the vegetables and getting those cooking. Now that I have the broccoli all cut up and the garlic peeled, the next thing I do is take this pot. And yes, it is the exact same pot I put the noodles in because I have a crazy busy life and I don't have time to do a million dishes, so I reuse the same pots. So this is pretty much a 1-pot meal. Right now I am just mincing the garlic, and I put in just a thin layer of water at the bottom and a little bit of the liquid aminos to kind of help bring some of that salt flavor in. So I forgot to say how many cloves of garlic I put in. So I don't know if you can tell, it's a lot. I put 3 large cloves and 1 small one. Again, this is mostly because the sickness has been going around and I want to make sure that we are ingesting as much as possible to help protect against sickness and illness, but we also just love garlic. Garlic brings an amazing flavor to dishes, so I am throwing a bunch in. But I did want to point out that you can see the minced parts, and then you can see these parts over here that are not minced. This was from the garlic that was crushed in my machine. Instead of throwing those bits away that didn't get pushed through, I actually throw them back in here because they are full of fiber and we need that fiber. It's incredibly important in our diet, and as Americans, we do not get enough fiber in our diet, and that's just so sad. We really need to get that back into our diet. It helps with digestion and so many other things. Along with that, I'm gonna be adding the broccoli now. But along with the broccoli, I'm also throwing in the stems. I just cut them pretty thin because I want these things to be small so that they can cook faster. Because I don't want this meal to take forever. It's really easy for me to just chop them up really small, throw it in so it can cook a lot faster. But these also have a lot of fiber in them. I don't even peel them, I just slice them up. I cut off the bottom so that that's not in there because it's been sitting there, but I make sure that I wash them really well and then I just throw them in. I know that's kind of weird. I don't know a lot of people that cook the stems. They usually throw them away. But that's really important to me, is to not waste the food. They're perfectly edible. They may be a little bit more bitter than the rest, but you know what? That's okay with me. I'd rather be healthy and eat some really good things. So our broccoli is cooking really nicely over here. I wanted to point out a few things. The reason I added water to the bottom, and it really is just a thin layer at the bottom and then some of that liquid aminos, are for two reasons actually. So first reason is because I'm not using any oil, so I don't have anything to protect the vegetables from the pan to keep them from sticking. So the water helps act as a barrier so that I'm not using oil, but the vegetables aren't going to start sticking to the pan. And then the other reason is it kind of helps cook them even faster because it has this steam effect. You can't really see it, but I can see all the steam vapors coming up, and that's helping cook the vegetables along with the heat and the boiling of the water. So I just keep this on kind of a medium-high heat for a little bit. Once it gets to this point, you can see that they all look green, bright green, and coated in water. So once it gets to this point, I'm going to add the spices in. So I'm just using some pepper. Now, I don't have an exact amount on all of these. I'm just kind of guessing, and usually I'll do a taste test like halfway through to make sure I like it. Garlic powder. Now remember, I love garlic, and I want to make sure that I am protecting against any sickness. And then cayenne. Now, I don't know if you've ever cooked with cayenne, but this stuff is extremely strong, so I'm only going to add a little by little. Stir it all up really good, and then taste test a little bit later. While the broccoli is on the stove cooking, the next thing I want to do is cut up the asparagus. So something to keep in mind with this, again, I'm really into zero food waste, so I don't want to waste all this food that I'm spending really hard-earned money to get. So a couple things to take notice. You see how this end of this stem is pretty green and this one is kind of purplish. So when I'm cutting them off, if it doesn't slice through really easy, like this is extremely hard, it's not even letting the knife go through. You basically want to cut until it's easy to go through, and that lets you know that this is all good and ripe and that's not good. So that I do get rid of and just keep the end that is ripe. And then the next thing, when you're cooking, this top part cooks super fast, and so you want to make sure that you leave enough stem on it so that all these pieces aren't going to fall apart and turn into mush. And then I'm pretty much just going to cut it up into really small bite-sized pieces. That way it cooks so much faster. Again, I want this to be as fast and as easy as possible. Right after I added the spices, I gave it a good stir, and then I went over and added the asparagus in and stirred it up a little bit more. It is down on a medium heat now. I do it this way because usually broccoli takes a little bit longer to cook. It's just a little bit thicker. And so once I see that it's starting to get softer on the outside, then I throw the asparagus in, because the asparagus also takes a while to cook, but not quite as long as the broccoli. I also am kind of picky. I like my vegetables a little bit crunchy still. I don't know, I'm weird. My husband likes them fully cooked, but I like things raw. They feel more natural to me, and I just like the flavor. They have a different flavor than cooked vegetables, but it's whatever your preference is. So I just added that half bag of spinach. You can see that it fills it up like crazy, but don't worry, it's all gonna go away soon. So I just cover it so that steam is gonna cook it. I just leave it on top and don't stir it just yet. As you can see, all of that spinach really cooked down. So I'm going to add at least a half a bag more to really get in some extra greens. Now that all the veggies are cooked through, the last thing to do is just add in the chickpeas. We're just going to stir these in. They're already cooked, so all you have to do is make sure that they're heated through and mixed in really well. And here's the finished product. We have the pesto noodles, the vegetables, everything mixed together, some chickpeas in there. I hope you guys like it.